What is going on, everyone? Adam Gellman here, and I am excited to be back to cover with Paul and Ben here the 2025 Hobby Annoyances Tournament. I think, this is our third year doing it, right? We've been doing these videos now for a while. I know Ryan wanted to join as well, but he was pretty busy. So we're going to do it as the Three Musketeers this year, but I listen. I think this is probably one of the more competitive brackets of that we've put together, and with some retirements, it's a wide open field. So, for those of you who don't know me, I am at SC Uncensored on Twitter. I am at WWE Gellman on Instagram. You can find my writing and all sorts of content that I do on Main Event Wrestling Cards at www.patreon.com/main event wrestling cards. But I'm going to kick it over to the master of ceremonies to introduce himself, and then Ben bringing up the last one here, and then we'll get into some of the discussion around the tournament. So, Paul?
Yeah, and just so I'm Paul Lesko. I'm a lawyer that spends most of his time in the morning analyzing hobby lawsuits and hobby legal issues on Twitter. So you can find me at Paul_Lesko.
Awesome. And Ben?
I'm Ben Wilson, former co-host of the About the Cards podcast that ran for 4 years. The resident asshole of the hobby, and you can find me at Our Trading Cards on Twitter, assuming you don't have me blocked, which probably applies to about half the hobby at this.
Nice. All right, let's see if I can get this slide deck to work. So, Paul, if you want to sort of walk everyone through what the tournament is, I think there was some confusion I already saw when you posted some of the play-in games, which we were done ahead of this recording. So maybe this is an opportunity to get people up to speed on how this all works.
Sure. So, about 5 years ago, just joking around on the Twitters, people complain a lot about the hobby, and I thought it would be funny to get kind of like a March Madness type tournament where everybody picks what annoys them the most, and it's really taken off since then. It's really become fun. So, what we'll do every day. We'll post the field of 64, just like the March Madness tournament for basketball. We'll post four matches a day, vote on which one annoys you the most, and may the most annoying annoyance win. And you can find the tournament will be on Twitter at Paul_Lesko. So see, it
I
says
messed that
at
up.
Paul.
Yeah,
Yeah, that's
I
okay.
forgot the underscore. They'll
Yeah,
find you.
hopefully,
If they're watching this, they're probably already following you. So hopefully, because I think this will be posted on your Twitter account anyway. So
definitely, definitely.
either way, yep. So let's talk about the champion of last year. Dumb excuses to cancel an eBay bid. It was a hard fought battle. I didn't think that this was going to be the one that really made all three, because this one's been like in the tournament since the beginning, right? Like this is one
Yeah.
of the original annoyances.
No, it's been around for a while, and I think this is the one. What I think one it is, there's lots of dumb ways to cancel on eBay, but the most common one that people joke about is, "Please cancel, my kid accidentally bought." And I think last year it really hit hard because there was kind of a lawsuit that was actually out there about it,
Mm.
where some kid actually bought something off Whatnot. So I think its time was there for it. And we'll see how it does again this year. But I think we're probably all thinking this guy is ready for retirement. Maybe
Yeah.
he goes to the Hall of Fame after this year and let some of the new annoyances, because there are a lot of new annoyances we will be talking about this year.
Yeah, and we'll get to that here before we get into the bracket. But man, like I remember watching, like, because I feel like the hobby gets more annoying every year. Personally, like it's a constant like stair step up towards a level of annoyance that just makes everybody upset. And I feel like we focused a lot this year, I think, on breakers because they just are the most they're at the forefront of a lot of different things. And but man, like I think last year was tough sledding, and this is kind of I felt like this was kind of a lifetime achievement award for this one. But Ben,
Yeah.
what about you? What was your impression of last year's tournament?
We probably could go to 128 and probably still not run out of topic.
Yeah.
Um, this particular one transcends the hobby, though. I'm in a lot of reseller groups and things on Facebook, and this is just an eBay problem, not just a hobby problem. And so this definitely deserves all the accolades. Although, if we were putting together our brackets beforehand, I don't know that any of us would have chosen this particular one to win. But that's what's fun about it is everybody in the hobby. And again, let's reiterate, this is a hobby we do for fun, allegedly. And it irritates all of us so much to the point where whether it's expensive cards, and I know we're going to get into a lot of this stuff, but costs too much. It takes too much of our time. There's issues with influencers and theft and scams, et cetera. And it's like, why do we choose to do this on our, own free will if it infuriates us so much? But here we are again.
And and you made a good point there, because it's one of those things where actually, some people might be mad that, they find themselves as one of these annoyances. Everybody is at least one of these annoyances. There's something in here that you're doing that annoys somebody else. So this is not a
Absolutely.
tournament that's, yeah, it's not a tournament that's mean spirited. It's the poke fun at ourselves and others and the things that we complain about almost daily on the socials.
Yeah, I feel like you're right. There could be 128 of these. Like, well, before we get into the bracket, maybe we'll all share one that we think maybe could have been on here but didn't make it, even into the playing games. I think we got to a list for the playing games where it was like, okay, I think we've got enough here. So there may be some others we left out. We'll get to that here in a
Yep.
second.
Yep.
So let's talk about the Annoyance Hall of Fame class of 2025. So we definitely had to move on from some of them because it just got a little repetitive. So we wanted to freshen it up a little bit. Paul, you want to run through them real fast?
Yeah, and I think this is one of Adam's best additions to this. Was there were some annoyances that were just dominating. eBay one of ones was dominating, even though it's one of those things that's it's becoming less and less of an actual annoyance to you. It's just so it's been out there for such a long time. It deserved its time, but now it deserves to be put out the pasture. Same thing with uninformed card influencers and redemptions and the whole everyone complaining that it's a hobby. It's not supposed to be investing. Those things they annoy everybody. They were powerhouses, but it's time for some new guys to see how they fare against everybody else.
Yeah, and I think like the retail flippers, like I think that
Hmm.
time has come and gone. I mean,
Yep.
now with the Pokemon stuff that you see people going into Costco and just like loading up shopping carts, maybe it's come back a little
Yeah.
bit.
Yeah.
But I remember back in the COVID era, like that was man, people accosting Target employees in the parking lot and all that shit. So I think like probably good that we move on from some of these things. And my listen, I'm very happy that after all these years, we are finally retiring Scotch tape. It is
That
the
hurts me.
stupidest, it is the stupidest annoyance that is out there. There should be no problem with people putting Scotch tape on top loaders. I will die on this hill. I died on this hill every time we make this video, and I'm glad we're finally retiring it.
And I loved including it just for the fact that it made
I
Adam so
know.
mad.
I know. I'm aware. Anything to add, Ben, before we move on to sort of some of the tournaments?
As you look at those lists, I mean, there are some classic ones that again would could this could be the Elite Eight every year theoretically.
Yeah, exactly.
They're big ones. I invest in cards. What are exclusive licenses? It's a monopoly, which it's not. This industry is an oligopoly with exclusive licenses.
Mhm.
Redemptions are a necessary evil. There are idiot influencers, people that keyword spam, and so at some point, yeah, they're annoying, but let's make room for more because there's probably honestly, if we made a list and solicited advice, we probably could create a list of two, three, 400 annoyances, things that we haven't even really thought about that might be isolated to whatnot or specific
Oh yeah,
breakers,
for sure.
etc. And at some point, we need to move along some of these other ones just to create room for some of the new annoyances because there were some on this list that honestly I had never heard of, and I'm like, I don't know what that is, but just the name, like something that was like Percy boxes. That was the first time I heard it last year with this. We take that. I'm like, I haven't heard this crap and I hate it already.
We'll get there. We'll get there. Yeah. I think you nailed it. And we only have a certain sphere of influence. Like I am terminally online. I do work in technology, so I'm always in front of a computer. I'm always sitting on conference calls. So I'm like terminally online. And so I get exposed to all of this shit. But you guys run in different circles than I do. And it's funny, we cross paths. So I think Like it shows how many things are out there and how much of a gap exists. And I'll get to that here in a second. But so aside from what actually made the bracket, if you guys had like a theme of annoyances or something that you think we just didn't maybe fit in this sort of a format, but just generally annoys you, like what would you go with overall?
Yeah, I this year it was one of our planes that didn't make it. It was collectors who've only been around since 2020.
Mhm.
And the reason I have that in there is because not that I'm picking on them, but they have different expectations from I started collecting in the 80s during the junk wax era, where when you're getting cards out of a pack, the cards most of the times are misprinted. I mean, there's not you're not you're not going to get PSA 10s. And I've noticed that when it comes to, and quality control is vastly improved, despite the fact that it is an entrant in this year, quality control is vastly improved since the 80s. But when you've just joined into the hobby in 2020 and you open a pack of cards and you don't get them all as PSA 10s and you're angry about it, it's like, that's not how it's been forever. So that was
Right.
one I thought would make it. I got beat up though by the millennials, and it didn't make it into the field of 64. But that's one I kind of wish got here, just because I'm vintage by definition. So
You are. You are vintage for sure. Ben, what about you, man?
Yeah, it's funny. Paul says the word vintage because that's what I was going to say. In certain other aspects of hobbies, an antique is 100 years or older. Vintage is 30 years or
yeah,
older. It's a moving target. So every year, something new becomes vintage that wasn't before. And at least in the baseball card side of the hobby, because vintage might mean a little something different in basketball or wrestling, football, you know, vintage cards are a specific era, a time frame, and I hate that that word was used by whoever made it popular back in,
45 years ago. Yeah,
yeah.
exactly.
Because growing up in 1986, vintage was 1979, it was 7 years old. But vintage was, the 50s, 60s, and 70s, post-war, prior to the junk wax era. And people are now calling vintage, 90s is vintage. It's not. That's an era in and of itself. And so, yeah, that irritates the crap out of me. And I went round and round with plenty of people. And again, there's one on here that we're going to get into that annoys the crap out of me because it's a misusage of the word. But vintage is right there next to the one in one of these brackets that I have going very deep into the tournament.
yeah.
Yeah, I hear you. And for me, like I felt myself getting annoyed with just the laziness of people. And like, you know, every time I post a preview or I post a card or something, everybody, the first question is there a checklist? Well, I usually go on to let me Google that for you and send the link that way because it's just like people are so lazy and it's so frustrating. They don't look up a card. They don't, do the research before spending thousands of dollars on whatever it is that they're buying. Like, I don't get how people function like that. Now, not everybody has the time to invest in the hashtag invest in this hobby that I do, and learn about different things as they come. But I'm like, I only collect one thing and I only collect one person of that one thing. But I'm pretty well traveled in terms of hobby circles. But most of that is just because I seek out opportunities to learn. But other people are just like, I want to take the path of like least understanding and have everybody else do the work for me. And I can't even begin to tell you how frustrating and annoying that is, especially because I've put myself in a position where a lot of new collectors are coming to me and whatever. I understand we all have to start somewhere, but if you're not at least attempting to do some of the research yourself, it's you realize that my answer is being typed through gritted teeth. So like, that's kind of where my thing. I can't really put that in the bracket because we have elements of that in here, but like as a whole, like just people being lazy, man, I am so frustrated and annoyed by it.
Every year, Allen and Ginter is the perfect example of this because people will buy a blaster or something, get a hot dog card or a Statue of Liberty
Right.
card, and wonder what the hell I got, or why is Caleb Williams in Allen and Ginter? That's a baseball product, and it's like how somebody could go and just buy something blindly, and that's fine if you want to try it. I've never opened this, but not to understand what that particular Goodwin Champions, those products are, and then go on to social media and bitch about it. Like, okay, are there other aspects of your life you go buy a car and go, shit, I didn't realize this is a manual transmission.
Exactly.
It's
Some
like,
people are spending the price of a car without knowing anything about what they're buying. They just
yeah.
want to
Well,
gamble or whatever. Yeah.
And then I got this crap. Somebody the other day was complaining about pulling a Dave Steve auto out of archives, which for most people our age would be like, hey, he was a dominant pitcher in the late 80s. And he's like, who is this guy? And I'm like, okay. And he got 90 responses, and a lot of people were, very nice about it. Some people, perhaps me, weren't.
Perhaps me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, like that's my thing. All right. So let's get into the bracket. Thanks, Tops region. I'm wearing the sweatshirt in my old ratty top sweatshirt in honor. I think I've had this for as long as this region has been around. So Paul, if you want to go through it, just a high level, sort of what you were trying to create in this particular region, and then we'll maybe call out a few of them that tip our fancy here.
sure. And so each region has its own little theme, and this theme, it says thanks tops. It's not an all tops region. This is kind of the manufacturer or the companies. These are the gripes or the annoyances that you get from the big companies that are out there. So that's the idea when we're putting this one together. And
And
in this
we
one,
named it this because I was annoyed by people responding to everything that is put in the Twitterverse hashtag thanks tops. And it was a thing for a while. We might have to change some of the region titles, but for
yep,
a while,
yep.
people were just constantly responding with thanks tops for everything. It was so annoying. Go ahead.
Yeah. No, and so this year, and you could tell, where is the more popularity in the hobby by the number of new annoyances. And with, Fanatics, with their takeover, with all their new products, with all the new things, there's a good amount of new annoyances here. We've got six new annoyances for this category. The breakers category coming up wins by far with the number of new annoyances.
It's my
But this
favorite.
one's
It's my favorite one too.
yeah, so in this one, the new ones we got this year are the new one seed, too damn many parallels. People complaining I'm priced out. That's the eight seed. Card cleaning and grading prep kits for number five. I think
Mm.
that's gonna be a good performer. AI generated card art, and this
Which
one
is
should have
recent.
been
That was a recent one. Yeah.
yeah, and this one should have been in longer. But it's only brand new this year. Is lack of accountability.
Yes.
So I think those are there are new ones, and I think they're all strong. I think they could all. I mean, they're all under an eight. Well, except for AI generated card art, but they're all. Any of these could win and beat any of the old guys that are in this one.
Yeah. Ben, which ones jump out to you?
Yeah, I have card cleaning. I've been very vocal about card cleaning, trimming. It all kind of falls under the same thing because it ruins the integrity of the cards. And again, if I clean a card that's going to be in Ben's collection forever, nobody should care. If I trim it, if I alter it in any way, but the problem is I die or I sell my collection and that card now is in Paul's collection. He doesn't know. He sells it to Adam. Now Adam has this card and you don't know, and so on. That chain of custody is broken, all because somebody wanted to clean a card to get a better grade or a better price. Ultimately, that's what it's for. It affects everybody, much like something that also, as we mentioned earlier, with the whole eBay, uh, issue is, bad customer service is something that goes beyond the hobby. The companies just it's kind of like chivalry, right? Chivalry's not dead. It's just not taught anymore.
Yeah.
And bad customer service is another thing. I taught customer service and sales for 20 years, and it annoys the crap out of me when I get it poorly as a consumer because it's like it's literally free. It's free. Just be kind and respectful and listen and communicate. It's going to solve 95% of the problems between, business and consumer. And then they wonder why, we have so many problems. Well, okay. Bad customer service is not isolated to this hobby, but because we don't have to be a part of this hobby, it's not like going to buy a car where we all need a car. We don't necessarily need that dealership, but we need a car. We don't need anything in this hobby at all.
Yeah. For me, I want that. So Paul, for some reason, put people complaining that they're priced out and wax prices too high in one single matchup. I listen, I hate when people complain about the prices of things. Like it just shows a lack of creativity, man. Like I've seen people be so happy just buying, dollar cards out of the dime bins, whatever. Like it's your own understanding of how the hobby works that really impacts sort of your experience. And I hate when people are complaining about being priced out or the wax price is too high. Well, then find other ways to engage. If it's above your budget, then figure out a way to do it and that doesn't break your bank. And I think that's great. You mentioned lack of accountability. I think that's probably the one thing I wanted to get into my final four, but I think there was something else that I put in there. Oh yeah, I see what I put in there, and I won't talk about it here. But
Yeah.
like, man, just because of the most recent controversies and just if you're offering something that people want, like if you like you're not going to be held accountable. Just I think they were talking about it on Sports Cards Nonsense this week or whatever. Like just issue your fake apology and do business as usual, move on, and people will forget. Like there's just no accountability in this hobby anymore. Like people do shitty things all the time and no one ever holds them accountable.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I
All
think
right.
for before we go on, I think the upset, the big upset, I think that can come out of this bracket is the 5-12 max matchup between card cleaning, taking on the flex of bringing cards to sporting events and on vacations. I
That
was
one I
so
put in
torn on this one.
I put that one in last year and
Yep.
people voted it out in the first round. I was so pissed. I hate when people bring cards on vacation.
Yeah.
Like it's like the vacation or vacation being like a ubiquitous term for this, but like don't bring a stupid card to don't open a pack of cards at a sporting event and video it. So like it's just so dumb to me. I agree.
Yeah. No, no.
All right, we're on to the let's go region.
Yeah, this is the breaker region. So and this was a great year for new annoyances. There's 10 new annoyances in this region. I mean, and I think it's because there's a lot of breakers. They're out there. There's quite a few annoying ones, and as everybody knows, there's been some real recent issues with very inappropriateness in breakers, and so we had to reflect that on here. But there are a lot of tough ones, and I think for some of these, we're going to need you to explain them because I
Yeah.
am not as into breaking as I am, and one of the things we were talking about is not understanding what's here, but like Doma box and run the givey. I mean, there's a couple things that are on here where I'm like, I'm out of it, but again, like Ben said, it already annoys me, and I don't even know the context.
All right, so let's start at the Givey goblins. So like basically, there was a recent controversy where somebody gave away a Pokemon pack on their stream, and because the person had not bought anything from their stream before winning the giveaway, he crumpled up all of the cards and then opened the pack, and it ended up being like what they call like a god pack or something. I don't even know, but it was like really expensive cards in this pack. And so, like, there's this term for it. It's called givey goblins, which are people that are just literally in the stream to enter the giveaways that Whatnot puts at the top of the stream. They don't buy anything; they're just there to win. And so, yeah, that's probably where that one came from. I added the givey goblins. I think that's the best term for them. But
Yeah,
whoever
I love it.
suggested run the givvies, I it's totally true. Hit a nuke. So I don't know what it is with people in this hobby having to create terms for pulling a big card. Like already saying I pulled something is a slang term for opening a pack and getting what you need. Now we've got Mojo. We had Mojo, then we had like Fire. Oh, that's sick, or whatever. Like it's just literally like you can follow it through like the decades of online breaking. The new one is like, oh, I hit a nuke. Like it's a big card. Um, so Percy boxes. So in like everything has to be abbreviated. Like everything has to be abbreviated. So you go on these big break rooms and they have like a giant store listed, and it's just like they call them Percy's, which are personal boxes that you buy for yourself instead of buying a slot in the break. And it's just like, why do we need these stupid fucking terms for this stuff? Like it's so dumb. Um, Bandwagon breakers are like, new product comes out, it's automatically the best product that's ever come out. Like that's pretty self-explanatory, but that's a new one. We take those. So this is a
Oh,
backyard breaks thing, just drives me fucking crazy. So basically, if you're opening like this really expensive prison box, $1,500 a box, you pull like maybe a $50, $100 card. Normally, you buy a $50 to $100 box, like that's a nice, you get your money back. But in a prison box that costs 1,500, it's not so much any, it's not great anymore. So what they've started to say is, oh, we take those, we take those. It's like $100 card, we take those. Like, no, like it is still 1/15th of the box cost. Like, stop saying we take those, we take these, whatever. Like, just say it's a nice card, whatever. Your slot costs as much, fine. You don't need to create this term for that.
You know, yeah.
Dome a box. I had to go to my son um to figure this out when I originally heard it. So when you dome something, you're taking it to the head, which means you're like, I'm gonna buy this whole box, I'm gonna dome it. And a lot of times it's like if I'm gonna dome a flawless box, it's like $5,000 for a box of flawless. So you doming it is like this big deal that oh my God, I can't believe you're gonna dome that whole box. I guess it came from I'm gonna dome this bowl, which is like if you're smoking weed and you've packed your bowl and you smoke the whole thing yourself. That's, I guess, where it comes from. So hopefully,
I, I hate this
can you
hobby.
imagine? Like, this is what we've come to in this
I'm
hobby.
learning so much today. This is amazing.
This is like if you've ever seen those videos where they talk about like skibbity and like all the different millennial terms, like
Yep.
we just
Yep.
did that for the hobby.
I think
Go.
that's, hey, Adam, you've got a new idea. We're going to have to do that. We're our own little millennial.
All right, let's go on to Sky is Falling here.
Okay. So Sky is Falling is, right now, I think and it's always been, there's so many doomsayers. The hobby's dead. I mean, how many times have you heard that? If
Yeah.
price is dropping, the hobby's dead. And so we almost have an entire region that's dedicated to, things that are going wrong and things that are falling apart. So, and again, it's been a very good year for things falling apart because we have three, six, nine, over 10 new entrants in this field also.
We were
Um,
working overtime to create new entries.
and unfortunately, some of them shouldn't have been new entries. Like, I think what one of them is what Ben's alluding to, the 8 seed Grails. And I'll let Ben take over on that one, but that's we should
You
have had
got
this
that
one
in
in
your
here for a long
final
time.
four, so we'll save that one. Maybe
Yeah.
let's focus on some other ones here.
Yeah, and then influencers borrowing others' content. I think that's one
Oh my
that's
God.
you see that a lot, and I mean, you almost want to complain about the people afterwards who complain, "Hey, you stole my content." It's, and then the number four, I think, is a good contribution by Adam. Everything is a conspiracy, where you find out there's some card, somebody pulls one of these cards, everyone's like, "Oh my God, they got a loaded box. There's intentional." The manufacturer sent it to them. It's like, not everything is a conspiracy, but it seems now you always need to have some deep, dark conspiracy with everything that's happening.
So
And then,
the only reason I didn't put that in my final four is because my champion is somewhere else. In the champion of my that I put is somewhere else specifically because of where my sort of niche resides. But yeah, everything is a conspiracy, man. And I've seen people say the dumbest shit. Like, no, Topps is not sacrificing their $40 billion relationship with Fanatics over a $500,000 card. Like, I'm sorry, like there's no benefit to rigging these things and like it's so dumb that people think like everything has to be a conspiracy. Oh, 11-year-old kid pulls the Paul Skeens
yeah,
debut patch.
that's right.
It's a conspiracy because he won't show it. He's got this journal. Or, the Steph, Kevin Durant, LeBron James triple auto from the Olympics hasn't been pulled yet. Oh, it was never sent. Like, oh, like give me a fucking break.
Yeah.
Like you're giving people way too much credit here. So yeah. Ben, what about you, man?
First off, to your point, Adam, I mean, they can't even get cards correctly centered, and we're
Yes,
assuming
exactly.
behind, I mean, are there like 20 dudes sitting at a table and be
Right,
like,
just like
cool?
the
Is it
hobby Illuminati. Yeah.
yeah, the triple auto logo man in a pack, right? Let's not do it at all. Let's hold back that Evan Longoria super fract. I mean, stop it.
Yeah.
But
It's
anytime
so
like the
dumb.
last one we saw breakers stealing cards in the last bracket, this one has uh, post office thefts. I mean, anytime now we're talking about, and Paul's a lawyer, right? Now you're talking about theft. Now we're talking about real world stuff. We're not talking about somebody, putting a dumb excuse to cancel a bid. I mean, that's just knucklehead crap. This is real. So to your point, Adam, it's hard to get like a conspiracy past something that is literally either a misdemeanor or a felony. Yeah, and so
Oh,
that's
it's well beyond. We're talking about like class action lawsuits and stuff
yeah.
like that for people. It's like, why would you put it? It's people who think that way, it's clearly a result of certain aspects of our American culture changing over the last 10 years. But man, that one just drives me nuts. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think it doesn't help. You're right. The fact that there's been such an influence of money into the hobby, there have been so many thefts that now you're like, okay, I'm going to think evil on everything. I think
Everything
that's,
is
the basic.
Yeah.
everything's evil. Yes. No, there's no good actors in any of these things. Everyone's a bad actor.
And before we move on, I have to bring up the 10. I had to add this one, criticizing someone else's big hit. And the reason I have to do this is because way back during COVID, I was one of those annoying people that went back through their cards, and I found
No.
I actually had a 2011 Trout Update Gold that I didn't
Oh,
know I
nice.
pulled. I didn't know I pulled that. So I was excited about it. I posted it. And the first response right after that was, "That's a great card. Too bad it's 70/30." And I'm like, oh, didn't even
But
notice it. Now, every time I look at that card, it's all I see is that it's not centered. So, I mean,
Yeah.
yeah, but it's
I,
going out first round. I know it, but I needed to get that one in there.
I know we're
I
I
don't
know we're
know.
gonna
We'll
get
see.
into I know we're gonna get into grails here in a little bit, but the one that kind of jumped out to me on this one is that about eBay sellers not paying taxes because it's a big fallacy that I don't have to pay taxes on a certain amount. It's like technically by the letter of the law and the way that the IRS writes their codes is if I have a garage sale tomorrow, I have to report all of the money I make, even though it's secondary. And, but it's like I bought donuts and I bought pizza and beer. And so I really didn't make anything other than some room in the garage, but I still have to report that income. And you get into the weeds a little bit there. And nobody, no CPA, no tax, financial advisor is going to tell you to report that. But yeah, when you're making thousands of dollars, it's not like if I make less than 19,999, I'm not going to get 1099. So I don't have to report that. No, you still do.
Yeah.
But, yeah,
No, I liked it. I mean, was it last year when they delayed the issuance of eBay's the
Yes, they've
1099?
done it again.
And
Yeah.
everybody's like, I dodged a bullet. I sold like
I was
$6,000 and they're
like
not
that
doing
for
it.
sure.
Yes.
I
And
absolutely
they're
was like that for
Yeah,
sure.
and they're bragging about it on social media. I'm like, oh man, really?
yeah. So just so everybody's clear, this is not, legal disclaimer here, Paul. You can cover me on this. Um, it, just because you don't receive a W-2 or a 1099 does not mean you don't. The onus is on the taxpayer, not the issuer of said, 1099. So if eBay doesn't give you one, it's still your responsibility to pull your statements and report it. End of rant.
All right, let's avoid getting into advice, financial planning advice, 'cause I think we can get in trouble for that if
No,
given that we
I
have a
said
lawyer on
timeout.
the
I said
call.
disclaimer.
One of the things I didn't see make it into anybody's final four, but I think is really important to call out is the CT scanners one. Man, that like hearing Boston Card Hunter sort of go through everything that he learned and like, man, I've paid very close attention to that because there's just so much that is related to how people try to find an edge and thinking that these companies can run medical equipment and get access. Like it's just bananas to me that somebody thought of that. And I guess they were originally starting to where they couldn't see cards that didn't have like stamping on it, like foil lettering and stuff like that. But now they can literally tell. Doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if it's a 1986 Fleer Jordan with nothing but cardboard. They can still tell like which one it is. It's just insane to me. Um, but yeah, I think that one didn't get called out. And also, one of the ones that I really wanted to put into my final four was the hobby positivity nausea. I cannot stand, I think my kids are getting up here. That I cannot stand people who are just so overly positive. And I swear to God, if I hear collect what you like another time, I will kick a puppy. Like, I swear to God, like, no one is collecting shit that they don't like. Like, why are you using that as a refrain to get out of an argument? It's just the most annoying thing to me ever. I'm an inherently negative person, as you if you can't tell.
That's why I love you guys so much because collectively, you can't be positive about everything all the time.
Yeah.
however, and I've proven this point, you can, however, be negative about everything all the time.
Which is just as annoying. Like, I'm not going to doubt that. Like, being inherently negative has its drawbacks as well. But people just inherently avoiding a discussion or a debate and just saying, hey, collect what you like. Like, give me a fucking break. Are you serious? Like, no one is out there, like, actively buying things they don't like for their PC. People make a living in this hobby, and there's nothing wrong with that. Like, there is literally nothing wrong with that.
Oh no,
But
flagship was released. I have to buy it. I don't want to. Yeah, nobody
right.
says
If
that.
you don't like it, then fine, but you don't need to use that as your rallying call like a dumbass. I'm sorry.
Oh,
All right,
yep.
grinding region.
Yeah, the grinding region. This is the region for this. This is at poking fun at us, the collector.
Hmm.
It really works more so on the people who are buying and flipping to make money. But really, this is the region that this is us. This is us. And if you don't find yourself somewhere in here, you're a better collector than everybody else. So this one, unfortunately, the collectors are a big letdown this year. We only have three new ones this year. And
Yeah.
really, two. I mean, I think all the new ones that are in here, they could have come in at any time. The new ones we have is net to me, and I think this would probably drive Ben crazy with his economics background. And just
Mm.
anybody who's trying to make you do the math and explain how much it has to become to them. Just give the price. Buying the grade and not the card. We could have
This
had
was
this one
mine.
in since 2020. This is a good one to add because this one
Cannot
annoys me
stand
so
this.
much. Because I mean, I just for the first time, I grew up in the suburb of Chicago. I did not, in '86, I did not collect NBA cards, so I did not get a Michael Jordan card in '86. I finally, this year, as a 51-year-old, got my first Jordan card. And 50-year-old got my first '86 Fleer Jordan, and I bought an authentic card. I bought one that didn't meet the size requirements because it was still a beautiful, beautiful card, and I got it at a I mean, thanks God other people are buying the grade, not the card, because I got it at a really good discount for that. But it's just, are you
No, I
buying?
forgot
Are
to
you
add
buying?
in eye appeal. We should have put in eye appeal as one of the. Oh, that card has great eye appeal. Like, give me a
Hey, just
fucking
collect what
break.
you
Exactly.
want.
And that
Just
would be my annoyance because my card is great eye appeal.
yes, exactly.
And then the final new annoyance, and again, this is another kick to Ben. It's when people say that it's baked in to the price. Like they're selling a $30 card for $80 because they made the mistake of grading it, and they're like, well, it's $80 because the grading price is baked in. No, you made a huge mistake. The card is still only worth $30.
I haven't heard that one. That's a good one. I like that one. I think like I this is the only seed, or this is the only region I think where I went with the number one seed for my things. I wanted to grab one other thing because buying the grade, not the card, man, there are so many cards out there that are just not scarce, not rare, but like pop report pricing is just when did that become a thing? Like I like it, oh, this is the pop one, so it's got to be worth 3x what a like it's
Yeah.
just so dumb. Like I like why are you buying the like I don't own it. Like the only graded cards that I own, I purchased graded and they're too expensive to even risk taking out of the holder.
Mhm.
Like so like I don't grade my cards. I hate grading. I think grading is a complete scam. I can do a whole video on that. I have done whole videos
Yeah.
on that. But like I that one almost made it all the way to the final four of the Cinderella story. And then you know, the emojis and auction titles, that was actually a new one too, I think. You might have overlooked that one.
Yeah.
When did eBay start allowing you to put emojis in auction titles? It's just ridiculous. Anyways, Ben, go
Rocket
ahead, buddy.
ships, rocket ships to the moon.
Yes, rocket ships everywhere, rocket ships. In
Mhm.
flames, a little flame emoji.
Yeah, fire.
Yeah, I despise the word comps so much. It's not even fair anymore or fun to argue, but there is a reality around it, an effective reality that, we do live in a world where things cost a certain amount. Granted, my favorite argument is that this is a non-autonomous consumption industry. So
Hmm.
comps in this industry and other ones like it are not real. However, as much as I wanted comps to win this thing, and I could have just pre-filled out the bracket that way and then just filled in everything around it, I couldn't get it all the way to the end because of a new, sorry, we're going to talk about it here in a little bit, but um, I couldn't get that one so far. And a lot of this stuff, baked in. kind of ties back to net.
That's a good one.
You
I
know,
haven't heard that before, but that's a good one.
See, we're all
I tell
learning.
people, I tell people all the time, like when you're creating your price, talking specifically to net, to me, you need to bake in all of your costs, your purchase price, all of your anticipated profits, shipping fees, etc. You need to bake it in to the price. Paul couldn't even remember if he was 50 or 51, yet you want him to do backwards math on I want $100 net to me. What is that going to cost to the consumer?
Yeah.
Like, no, you give me a price. So baked in, is also effective, but I really want all 64 of these to tie at the end of the day. They're all just eating
I
shit.
listen, I will fight you on comps because I think that that has become a ubiquitous term for the completed auction, not comparable sales. And so I think it's like
But how do we know if the
we
auction got paid for? How do we know if
no,
there
I
wasn't
know
a
that. There's a
yeah.
whole like how do I price my cards? How do I value my cards for sale discussion? I think I put like a 7-page essay out there on how to do it, but like comps is like a ubiquitous term at this point, but like I get why people hate it because it comes up in literally every sale that I do. It's like, oh,
Yeah.
comps are this, comps are that, like blah blah, blah. I'm like, I get it. I've stopped being annoyed by it. Like it's just a ubiquitous
Hey,
term at this point.
if you want to sell it because the last comp said it was worth 20 bucks, then guess what? Let the $20 bill buy it because that's not how it works in a financial transaction. And the other thing people forget to realize a lot with comps without getting too much in a rabbit hole is the last one sold for 20, but that also eliminates one buyer from the market. So the next one is
Yeah.
technically worth $0 because we don't know if that last buyer wasn't the last one. So use it as a guide. Don't use it as the Bible or the last word.
Oh,
That's
that
not
I
how it
agree with.
works.
Maybe
That
that's
I
what.
Because
absolutely agree with.
Yeah, maybe
it's
we
an idea
rename it
that my
like.
card, my new Kevin Owens card that I'm going to buy because Adam convinced me to collect him.
Oh, Kevin's the best, man.
The last one sold for $20. So that's where we both should be around. But at the end of the day, if I'm motivated to buy it at 15 and you're motivated to sell it, then we probably can meet there, thus creating a new comp. But it shouldn't change
Yeah.
the market because
Yeah,
it
I
maybe
think it's just become this ubiquitous sales term that's just like, hey, this is what it should sell for, so this is where my price is. Like, I think, like I've never. It's like people get into these conversations where they're like, I will only sell at last comp or whatever like that. Well, then I don't know if I need to do business with you. But if you're like using it as a guide to talk about your price, then I'm all for it. All right, let's talk about your final four, Ben. Let's see where you're going here, and we'll start with you, and then I think Paul, you're gonna bring up the rear here on this one. So, Ben, if you want to start with your final four and your champion, let's hear it.
yeah, we've already talked about card cleaning, the fact it alters cards, breakers, anybody stealing cards. That's literally, it's theft. I mean, the two really that bother me the most are grails because it's a misuse of the word as we alluded
Oh,
to earlier.
hate it. Yeah.
Um, a holy grail in the hobby is the Michael Jordan, right? It's the 52 mantle. It's the Honus Wagner. These are true holy grails because the entire population of the hobby acknowledge them as the short list. There's really only so many holy grails, period. You personally don't have a grail. What you have is a white whale. It's something that's unique to you, something that's important to you. Adam, you collect wrestling cards. Paul, you like to collect things that are associated with lawsuits. I collect A's cards. Our grail, or our white whales couldn't be further from the truth. I need the T206 Eddie Plank to complete my T206 A's team collection. I'm never going to get one. That could be argued as a holy grail because it's one of the top four from that set. But if I need a, PSA 10 Reggie Jackson 1969 tops, it's not a grail. It's a white whale. And once I get it, there'll be another one. That's what irritates me about that. And again, net to me, bake all of your goods. Tell me you want $105. After you ship it to me, you pay your PayPal fees. You come out with $95 total. I don't care how much money hits your bank account. I don't want to know. Just tell me that the final price to me is 105, and then either I will do it or I won't. And if we can't come to a different, I don't give a shit how much money you make. So stop it. And literally, if somebody's like, I need this net to me, I'm going to call you a bunch of names, laugh at you, and not do business with you because
Does
that's the
this does this also apply to when people say like if you sell off eBay, I need to pay you 10% less or whatever because you don't have to pay fees? Is that are we in the same category there?
Yeah,
That's
go to
it.
Walmart tomorrow and buy something for 9.99, and then when you get to the register, they're going to be, well, Walmart Corp needs $8 net to them, so we're going to add a transportation fee and a distribution fee. So your 9.99 is actually $14.96, and that's what you owe us. And it's like, now, no, I thought I was paying 9.99 plus sales tax for the states that have that. That's what I'm paying. No, Walmart needs $8 net to them. So, the economic theory of multiple distribution is by the time you buy something, there's probably 10 people that are going to get money out of that transaction. When Walmart pays their vendor and their vendor pays their distributor and the distributor pays the manufacturer, and there was 17 different companies that had a piece in that little toy that you were making, I paid $10. That's all I care about.
Yeah.
How that money
Mhm.
gets distributed backwards, I couldn't care less about.
Yeah.
So that's your champion.
Correct. Yeah.
And that's cool. So for your final four, I think who were the two that you had in the finals? I couldn't remember.
Um, Sorry, one sec. I'll take a look. So card cleaning is what I had, just because it kind of
Hmm.
ends up. I had that up against customer service. Um, but card cleaning is, you're ruining the integrity of cards. And again, the chain of custody is lost. But at the end of the day, this isn't stealing cards, stuff like that. Yes, it's kind of bigger than the hobby, but at the end of the day, this really comes down to what it irritates us and annoys us the most. And the ethical side of things gets into a really gray area. But net to me, you're just a douche, dude. Knock it off.
See, I think with the breakers stealing cards, like I think that goes back to the accountability as well, because like if they're stealing, like they should not be allowed to sell again, and yet there's no
Yeah.
accountability in this hobby. So here we go.
Yeah.
Well, good choices, Ben. I
Yep.
think the Grails, yeah, absolutely, man. Annoys the crap out of me because it's just another term we have to create to talk about our top cards in our collection. Oh, this is my Grail, blah blah blah. It's everybody's got to create these colloquialisms that exist to talk about how they engage with the hobby, and I just find that so stupid. All right, I'm gonna go into my final four. So
Sorry. Nice picture. I love it.
yeah, like seriously, man, I have like the controversy around backyard breaks, like going back to accountability, going back to all these other things. Like I cannot stand everything that backyard breaks represents. They are the absolute scum of this hobby, and it's unfortunate because like they have the biggest platform, and like if people don't understand how big of a platform they have, like I challenge you to go sit through one of their streams. Like they are making money hand over fist. Like the reason they weren't kicked off of Whatnot's platform is because they're responsible for like 45% or whatever of the over bottom line revenue of that Whatnot platform. And it's just like their fanboys are more annoying than the actual breaker. And like if you go back, like I called out backyard breaks for something they did when they were opening wrestling cards and just doing stupid incel stuff that should never be on a stream before all this controversy. They had people start tagging me in the stream so they could talk shit about me. It's like their fanboys will defend them to the ends of the earth. I really wanted to make this the champion, but I'll get to my champion here in a second because it absolutely deserved to be there.
Yeah.
I'm going to skip over this one because it's my champion, but did I do okay? Number one seed. It's the only number one seed I put in the final four. And these are the ones that I wanted, not the ones I think will actually win because I think people just look at this and choose the easiest one to understand versus the one that's actually the most annoying. So sometimes, somehow we got to fix that. But did I do okay? Facebook has become a combination of I want to sell this for a ridiculous price versus did I do okay to inherently get people fired up to make them offers. And like if you're a new person who genuinely doesn't know about the cards you want to learn, like fine, I get it. But most people do this to as a tactic, as a selling tactic, and it's the most annoying thing ever. If you don't know and you don't have the knowledge on how to make these things part of your collecting experience, do not spend the money. Like, why are you spending thousands of dollars if you don't understand? Lastly, unaffiliated relics. So people don't understand. We started with game used relics. Those in back in 1989 and 90, or I'm sorry, whenever the first one was 91 or whatever, press pass, whatever they put in their racing products or whatever it was back in the day, it was game used. Then we went to event use, which is we're going to go to the NFL rookie premiere. They're going to throw the football around and we're going to run around in our jersey and take photos. And then we're going to put those jerseys in cards. Then we went to player worn relics, which is not just for rookies, but people that should have game used relics available now only have player worn, which is they put it on over their head for a second and take it off. Now we've graduated from that to, hey, these were just bought off the rack at Fanatics and Dick's Sporting Goods, and we're going to cut them up and put them in cards. How did this become okay? Like these are not touched. They're not affiliated with the players. They're not part of anything. How did this become a thing? I genuinely am beyond annoyed that this is widely accepted and okay in the hobby. Lastly, my champion. So this one hits close to home for me because if you are a wrestling collector and you have participated in an eBay auction for a one of one, chances are it's been shilled. There's a single guy or a number of people that go around and do nothing but shill auctions just with the idea of sabotaging them. But it happens in the NBA. It happens in the NFL. People protecting their assets, protecting the closed prices. So, if they pay $5,000 for a card, they will shill a card up to that amount so that it maintains their floor price. Like shilling is the easiest thing to fix. It is literally the easiest thing to fix. All eBay does is have to require a payment method on file for every auction you bid in. And it will solve 90 to 95% of this problem. But for whatever reason, for whatever red tape, eBay refuses to make people have a payment method on file for every bid and purchase they make, and it's ridiculous. So that's my champion for this year. I hope it wins. I don't think it will win, but please, for the love of God, make this the champion. All right, Paul, on to you, buddy.
No, those are some good choices that you had there. So for me, I don't think I have a single number one seed that advanced, and most of what I have here are all new. I mean, if not all of them are all new. So I mean, we've seen it recently, the too many parallel phenomena. I mean, when I started, in 2010, 2011 is when I started to really collect again. And then, we just had gold, orange, red, silver. I mean, those the only refractors that were out there. And even at that, I thought that was too many. And super. I mean, and I thought that was too many at that point, because it's trying to keep track of it. But at least they were all numbered, except for the silver sometimes, I mean. So I mean, it was okay, but now I mean, you almost need to have like a menu describing what everything is because,
Yeah.
and then especially since every once in a while I'm a huge fan of University of Illinois basketball. So when any of their players go pro, I try to collect their cards. And when Ayo Dosunmu went out 2 years ago, last year, whenever that 2 years ago, when that went out, I started buying his cards, and I was so confused because wait a second, how many of these parallels do they have? Aren't numbered. I mean, what is the point of these? So it's just, and then it's just grown. It's grown, and I mean, and all the new names they have for them. I mean, like waffle iron, and I mean, there's too
Lotus
many.
Blossom. Yeah.
Yeah, there's just too many. So backyard fanboys, I had the same thing that you have. It's just this kind of a rabid group that's out there. And again, if you're, if you like supporting a breaker, I understand that. But this blind faith and, willing to support them even when they do wrong, it's, just think for yourself. I mean, you really need to. Expecting all PSA 10s. This is my way of kind of getting back at the 2020ers. And again, this is me showing my age. It says, 86, that was the first, complete set that I ever put together. And those are awful cards. Those are awful cards. I mean, you had a black border. I mean, they're showing cardboard. They're showing brown
That was my
everywhere.
first set too, I think. That's kind of
Was it
crazy.
really?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean,
Yeah.
it's just I mean, so we grew up not expecting PSA 10s, and when you got one, it was special. But now, I mean, it's not just everyone expecting PSA 10s. There are too many PSA 10s. There
So
just
let me
are.
ask you this question. question. How do you feel that a PSA 9 goes for less than a raw card?
I love it because, like you, I've never graded a card. I've never paid to grade a card. But now, when I'm going to find something that I want to buy, if there's a PSA 9 less than, an ungraded card, I'm buying up the PSA 9 all the time. I
Right,
mean, it's just,
exactly.
really, because most people will break a PSA 9, send it back in, and get a 10 anyway.
Yeah,
Talk about buying the card and not the grade. I mean, if the grader can't tell the difference between a 9 and a 10, what's to say your 9 isn't a 10 already? So I mean, that's that's another 2 hour stream just for that issue right
it
there.
really is. Yeah.
And that goes to it, buying the grade. I mean, that is my my champion there, because it's
Hey,
just it's really it's. And I was watching, I think it was a recent Jeff Wilson stream where he was talking about buying cards, and he said, yeah, for these cards, I'm buying the grade. I'm not buying the card. And that's just not what we're doing. We're not buying. You're not buying the box the card is in. This hobby started collecting cards. That's really what it is. You're supposed to collect the cards. But now we've gone to the numbers where, if someone's a PSA 10 collector, well, I won't even look at a 9. I won't even look at anything else. I'm only going for the 10. And really, I don't even think they see the card. All they see is the label. And it says PSA
It's
10, and then they're done. Yeah.
yeah,
So,
and there was a card, the highest wrestling card ever sold, even though it was, I believe, a manufactured sale to set the record. It is one of the Hulk Hogan cards that, for besides the fact I can't stand Hulk Hogan, but it's a Hulk Hogan card where people are specifically buying the grade. The card isn't rare. There's 2,500, 3,000 of these cards out there. All of them have been graded. A number of them have been autographed. It's not a scarce card. They are literally paying the record amount, which is six figures, 130 plus $1,000, specifically for the grade. I mean, like, I don't get it. Like, are you telling me that a PSA 9 Michael Jordan 1986 is inherently less good looking than, has less eye appeal than a PSA 10? Like, come on, man. Like, that's stupid. Ben, you were
especially
going
when
to
it
say
comes,
something.
yeah,
yeah,
especially when it
I
comes
was
to
just going to
subjective
say that
grading.
a
Sorry,
lot of these graders are hired off of Indeed, so they're experts.
man.
And
I say
when
that all the time. It's like just some Joe Schmo off of Indeed. Yeah.
when I had the podcast, I was like, me and the guys, we wear glasses, and it's like, the older we get, how are we? Because there is a functional difference between a PSA 9 and a PSA 10 from the monetary aspect. What people are willing to pay for that difference. And you have somebody that's looking at this card for 15 to 20 seconds and determining, and it could be a considerable difference between one grade and the next. And then, we all have heard the stories. I've had a very large breaker in the past tell me on the podcast, no less, that he was guaranteed tens depending on how many cards he submitted. And I'm like,
Oh,
what
yeah,
if
it's
I
complete
send a
scam.
what if I send a bunch of crap in? You're still gonna grade it at 10. You guaranteed it. And we all know you slip $100 bill into your pack. Allegedly, it's all anonymous. They don't know who's sending in what. Knock it off. They do. And if somebody sends it in versus one of
It's a
us guys,
business, not a service. Yes.
yeah, I
And
mean,
that's one of the other things we should have included in here is the AI grading. Like, have you seen,
Oh,
like, no one wants AI grading. No one wants any of this stuff to be done by computers. All they want is tens. That's it. That's all they care about. Like, they
yeah.
don't want accuracy. They just want tens.
Yeah. No, and that's the problem with grading all in and of itself is, yeah, it's the seller who's sending it in. The seller just wants a 10. The buyer wants to know the truth. I mean, the buyer wants to know what it actually is, but they're not the ones sending it in. So
Well,
it's
look at why grading was created. It was because we only had 4 megapixel, cameras on our Kodak, Polaroid, whatever thing that we used in 1999. Like, it was blurry photos because that's all the digital photos that existed. But now we've got an actual like movie camera attached to our phone. Like, it's no longer needed anymore. It's ridiculous. I can't. I'm glad someone chose that as the champion. I put that in there because it's literally the most annoying thing that happens from a grading perspective, and I am completely anti-grading. So I think that's it for right now in terms of our final four. Any closing thoughts, Paul, that you have on the tournament? I think it's a pretty competitive bracket, right?
Oh, there was. I mean, it's funny. I filled out the bracket, but if you had me fill out the bracket again tomorrow, I'd probably
Be
change.
different, yeah,
This is.
exactly.
I think you mentioned it earlier. This is one of the most competitive brackets. There are a lot, and especially, I mean, even in the first round. I mean, I haven't even thought about really the second round or third round, but there's some really tough matchups in the first round. So
Yeah.
I hope everybody, enjoys it. I hope everybody votes. It's we're gonna go from 64. We're gonna pick a champion here. So find what annoys you most, and vote it
There's
often.
a history here. This has history. There's a legacy to maintain. All right, Ben, any closing thoughts?
No, it should be fun, and I'm glad we're going to continue to do this for another year and hopefully many years in the future because, um, like the whole run the Givey or whatever the hell that is. That's the one I saw that I hate. I was like, I hate everything about that. I have no idea what that means. What is Doma box? So I appreciate Adam for explaining that because I hate so much about this. And but I love the
It's
hobby.
all from what it's basically like if you exist on whatnot, you pick up a completely different lexicon of how the hobby it's like learning to speak French. Like I swear to God, like I go into these streams and I was doing research for a post that I did about the 24/7 card casino that now exists. And like I had to actually like go into these big streams because I don't collect football cards anymore. I don't collect baseball cards anymore. I don't collect basketball cards. My frame of reference is very, very tiny. So I had to expose myself to a lot of these things. Now go into these rooms, and like one of the things on this year's bracket is confusing break formats, and like it's a low seed, but I think by the end of next year's, or by the time we get to the next level of this tournament next year, that should be a higher seed because. I challenge anybody watching this video to go into a backyard breaks like stream and try to understand what they're doing. Like just try to understand it. Like they they literally have a block of text that's this long and you have to like piece out like okay, if I buy this slot, I get this card but not this one, even though the team is the same and the players like they have communal stuff. Like I was lost. I was like I ran group breaks back in 2008. Like I was before all of this stuff. Like we were buying exquisite cases because they were so expensive even back then. And like it was like you bought the team, you got the team, that's what you get. Now, because they can't sell teams that are crappy anymore, they have to create these confusing break formats to like build in this gaming aspect to make it more of a card casino. Because if they put Washington Commanders out there for everybody, it would be like $1,800 a slot for a prism case when everybody else is like 100. So like because the hobby is so misaligned in value for QBs versus non-QBs, or big hitters versus pitchers, like pitchers are worthless if you're not your name isn't Paul Skeens. So it's like, or Clayton Kershaw, like so all of these things are like how do we level out the break slots so that we can actually sell these slots? And it's like they've come up with these ridiculous formats. And I'm just like, I wish that one, like, I was going to put that one through much more further in my tournament. I couldn't do it. It was too low of a seed. I was just like, and it really went up against some big hitters early on. So, man, I challenge you guys go on to Whatnot just to watch, just watch and tell me if you can figure out what the fuck is going on because it is completely lost. It's going off the deep end.
Nice. No, and I just signed up for Whatnot for the first time this week, and I hate to say it, I was confused too. So and
It's
that's the
insanely
beauty.
confusing.
I mean, that's the beauty of the of this whole tournament is we get to get a good flavor of where everybody else is and where you fit in the hobby nowadays too. So, are you on the outside like us? Because I mean, again, we only picked what personally annoys us to advance. We didn't actually
Right.
pick what we think's going to win. So, you're always hoping the hobby is more like you. We know we're not. None of us got the final four, the actual
Yeah.
final four, and I'm
It's
really
not.
excited to
No.
see. I'm excited to see what does the hobby think is the actual final four this year.
Yeah, I agree. And I think like because we're kind of like people don't understand like the audience that is on these streams or on these breaks or whatever, the audience that are in card shops going and buying stuff from card shops, the people that are on social media, like we're talking about little tiny pockets of people in this grand hobby. And like I'll give you an example. Like you saw Emma Roberts, who is a famous actress, ripping a pack and she got torn apart for the way she was doing. Like she's a generally famous person, but she's just a normal person going into a card shop and buying a pack of cards or whatever it is that she did. Or maybe it was a marketing conspiracy, or maybe it was something else, who knows? But like all of these things, like we're talking about little tiny pockets of people. The people on breaking streams, we're talking about much larger exposure because at any given time on Fanatics Live and on whatnot, there's thousands and thousands and thousands of people. Guess how many of them are on Twitter going through all of the bullshit that we talk about every single day, like less than 0.01%.
Yeah.
Like there's just, it's so weird. Like the disconnect, the knowledge gaps, like all those things we were talking about at the beginning of this video is like the annoyances exist because we expect people to be at a level, right? We expect them to say, like, okay, you're buying this, you should know that this insert is at least worth $10, not $100,000, right?
Mhm.
But people don't do like they don't look at it that way. And you talk about this a hobby. Well, maybe I went to Target and I saw the Pokemon pack hanging from the register, or my kid grabbed the Top Series One pack off the Walgreens things and pulled the Julio Rodriguez 101 or whatever it was. So I mean, like all of that stuff exists in tandem, and it's so unusual. And if you ever want to see just how big the knowledge gap really is, go on Facebook, go start trolling through all of the different posts, especially in some of the giant, humongous Facebook groups, and just how uninformed people really are. It's not just the card influencers that are uninformed anymore because the hobby has gotten so big, like the knowledge gap just continues to get bigger and bigger.
No, no.
I don't know.
Facebook,
I
we're getting,
now we're just bitching in general. So this
yeah.
is my favorite part of the stream, right?
God, that's so annoying.
Exactly. All right, Ben, why don't you tell everybody again where they can find you and sort of and anything else that you want to close with here?
Yeah, you can find me at Our Trading Cards on Twitter. That's really where I spend most of my time. I get blocked in all kinds of Facebook groups for doing exactly what Adam alluded to. Start trolling somebody, and the next thing I know, I got a 7 day suspension on my messenger. So yeah, I'm excited to see. Like Paul had said, these aren't, our choices aren't what we think is going to happen. It's what we, as voters, what we're going to vote for, what we would like to see. So it'll be interesting to see how wrong we are and what annoys, those that choose to vote, so and how we end up, and that to me is really the worst thing. So hopefully that wins.
Yes, clearly. All right,
Yeah,
Paul, what about
absolutely.
you, buddy?
Yeah,
Definitively.
you can find me on at Paul_Lesko, and hopefully you do because that's where the tournament's going to be.
I have a feel like again, I have a feeling that your account is the one that everybody should know because this is where the polls are going to be. And if they're not following you, they're probably not seeing this video. I wish I had more influence. I wish I was a bigger card influencer, but I am not. I only have a few dedicated people that engage with me on a regular basis. But you can find me at Censored on Twitter. I will never call it X. You can find me at WWE Gellman on Instagram. You can find my wrestling card content at Patreon for main event wrestling cards. Really excited to see. This is my, like, as annoyed as I get about all the shit that goes down, like, this is my favorite time to see are other people as annoyed by this as I am? Because I get really fucking annoyed. And, like, yeah, this is
No,
one of my favorite things every year. So I hope we can continue doing this. We will be back with a wrap-up show like we usually do to talk about the winner and talk about some of the things that went down during the course of the tournament. So be sure to subscribe to this channel that I post on literally once a year to upload this video. So if you are subscribed to this channel, it's likely because you were watching me in 2008 or you are following this tournament. So I hope you continue to subscribe and be a part of this tournament, not this YouTube channel, because I really don't use it very often, but it's something that houses our yearly video, and I've come to enjoy this conversation a lot. Thank you very much to both of you for taking the time and getting annoyed with all of us around the hobby, especially as things continue to get more and more annoying. One last thing. I really wanted to make an intro for this video that was a Star Wars like crawl, and there's an actual generator online that you can type in all of your stuff. But when I went to download it to play it at the beginning of this video, I had to pay. So my intro for this epic, experience that we're gonna have failed miserably. Very annoying that there's a paywall there. Thanks everybody for joining us. Hopefully next year I will have the money to spring. Thanks to all of my hashtag investing. Great to talk to all of you guys. See you guys soon.